line.
Thank you. You're so concerned.
Mike, did you see your TBC document
Yes.
like a year later?
Nothing changed between what you emailed us and what's in this book.
It did.
It did.
We received comments back late yesterday afternoon
On
on the budget.
the budget, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
So we've met with our treasurer this morning and we went over the changes and made some adjustments.
Okay.
Either one of you guys want to do an invocation?
I'm not good
I can do the pledge. Invocation.
I will try my best.
This, we'll call this meeting to order. We have a forum, it's 1:30. Gerald Economic Development, and please, we roll call, everybody's here. Invocation by Mr. Swilby.
Sorry, Mr. President, we do not have JB or
Oh,
Tanya.
we don't. Tanya is,
I just want to note
Yeah,
for
no,
the
that's
record, we don't have JB Stockton and Tanya Clausen
Okay.
listed.
Bless us, Father, for all of us getting together today and watching over us and guiding us in making the right decisions today. Please watch over all of our city employees and city staff to help them and help us all get together and do the right things. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
thank you, sir. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have anybody sign up?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 3, discuss and consider possible action regarding Gerald Economic Development fiscal year 24-25 budget.
So, good afternoon, board. You will find the budgets behind your red tab. The first budget you will see in the spreadsheet is the spreadsheet that I sent to you on Friday. We're gonna skim past that one a little bit, but I wanted to have that in there for your reference. If you go to the budget behind the orange sheet, that's the one that we're gonna talk about right now. We sent this spreadsheet in last, I guess, a week ago, this past Friday, and we received comment back from Danielle yesterday afternoon on some amendments that she wanted to propose to our budget. So we're gonna go through her changes as well as what Edward and I spoke about this morning to kind of still give the board what they want and also keeping in mind what the city is looking for as well. So a couple of notations, one on the first part for administrative, did you find it?
Orange tab. Go to the red and then go to the orange.
Oh, I got you.
It's more
Okay.
it's more of an orange page.
Yeah.
Is this word?
Yeah.
So this is just,
Sorry.
You tried.
I tried.
If I do need to make it bigger, let me know, I can do that.
No, I just need to buy more reading glasses, that's all.
Okay, we'll start at the first, at the top for administrative. So they did add a 5% COLA increase as well as what we think is about maybe a 4.5% increase on insurance as well. So that is included in the budget for 24-25. So I guess first you'll notice two lines. So you have the 24-25 base and the 24-25 budget. All the numbers that Danielle proposed, I left those as the 24-25 base. Any changes that we made were made in the 24-25 budget column so that you could kind of see the differences on what we're proposing versus what the comments were. So under supplies and materials, we did have in there $8,100 for rent. Rent was removed from this item. However, as the EDC, we cannot take things for free, so we do have to pay for our rent wherever that is. And so we added $8,100 back in, which is what we were anticipating if we were to lease an office space here.
Okay.
So you'll see that notation there, so that just increases that line item by the $8,100. Moving down to contracted services, there was a $100,000 proposed in contract labor general contracts, and that was for any studies or things that we would do to get professional services. That item has been removed. After Edward and I discussed it, we felt like that was appropriate. I think what ultimately was to happen out of this budget was a more balanced budget instead of taking things from the reserve and putting it in. So we've kind of adhered to the more balanced budget and just removing that. And if anything is needed, we can always come back for an amendment at a later time. The other change in here is there is auditor and administrative contract labor services have been separated out. If you will recall in what we had proposed under our city administrative and professional services contract, we were proposing that it was $3,000 auditor, $3,000 administrative fees, and $100 for IT technology. And now what it looks like it's being proposed is $3,000 for the auditor is taken out, and it's still the $6,100 for administrative services, so increasing administrative services by $3,000 from the city's perspective. So instead of just $6,100 for all of that, it's now increased to $9,100. And we didn't see a problem with that, so we left that the way that it was. And then we had increased legal services by $10,000, and so that was approved. We had asked about if any of the technology needed to come out of contract labor admin and put that into the technology line item. Whether it does or not, it doesn't affect how we approve our budget. It would still be the same number. Any questions on what we've discussed so far? Okay. Miscellaneous expenses, so travel training, you'll see that that was budgeted originally we had that budgeted at $55,500, that got dropped down to $20,000. We have put that back up to $41,750, and kind of looking at travel training due subscription simultaneously, we had increased so what was our original? Dues and subscriptions, we had increased that to $40,000 because if we did all of our CRM tools and other services that we were anticipating, it would probably be closer to $40,000. But dropping it back, if we need to do anything, we can do it a budget amendment. But keeping it at the proposed, Danielle had proposed from $40,000 to $26,400. We're increasing that by $10,000. The thought process behind that is if we're going to do and travel more with the Wilco EDP and do more recruitment with them, then why don't we bump up our membership with the Wilco EDP as well? We're currently at $10,000 membership, and a $20,000 membership could get you an officer position on the board, as well as 2 votes on items opposed to 1 vote. It's not that significant of like what you get out of it. But if we're paying for other services, we might put more eggs into this basket as opposed to something else that may not be as beneficial. It would also take away right now we also pay a minimal into Opportunity Austin, and instead of, they were asking everybody to increase the memberships to Opportunity Austin, but we don't get a lot of bang for our buck out of them. So increasing it with Wilco EDP instead of Opportunity Austin. So that kind of gives us the membership level with Wilco EDP It's not to say that we could get a membership or an officer position this year because they've been set, but as years go on, and those get renominated, we could potentially have an officer position.
How does the number that we're proposing giving them, relate to like, Cedar Park and Liberty?
They're all at 20,000.
They're all at 20,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They let us in at 5 as a special circumstance because of our size.
Because we're so small.
And now.
And we
can't-
went up to 10
Yeah.
last fiscal year, and we did that because they were increasing their membership. So you couldn't even get a seat on the board if you were at 5,000. So we increased it to the 10,000. They're having to kind of increase what the communities pay. So right now, the county pays in $500,000 to Wilco EDP. They're not gonna continue that for the foreseeable future. They're gonna commit to it for this next fiscal year, but we don't know what they're gonna commit at in years following. So what we're trying to figure out is how do we balance everything that the local EDP is doing and still be affordable to all the communities, but then not have as much from the, county participation, but also trying not to go to the private side looking for investments too, and then having to be like Opportunity Austin, where it is taking the private side and then you're catering more to them as opposed to the government side. So $600, $700, $800 night hotels are okay on the private sector, it's not okay for the government sector. So trying to find that balance and what that looks like. So I mean, it is just a proposed, if the board does not feel like that, we should do that. We could keep it at the 10,000 and we would just drop that down to the 26 board.
How's their office overseas going?
Phenomenal. They get more out of that office and they're filtering it down to us. But with that, we're also getting one-on-one as people walk in, the companies are walking into the Cotra office. There are only 2, Ohio and Williamson County EDP are the only 2 that they have contracts with that they actually take and say specifically go to Ohio, specifically go to Wilco EDP. So it's been a huge benefit.
And by increasing this, would we get more first-hand information, or are we gonna continue to get kind of the table scratch?
So I think if you're increasing this, once we are able to get an officer position, you're gonna have more firsthand knowledge and be able to help further things, because I've noticed that the officers get a lot of firsthand information and what's going on, and they are kind of dictating what the agenda is gonna be. And then, so we hear about it at the meetings as opposed to being firsthand to be able to say, what about this, what about this? And then as far as participation in the events and being there firsthand, what I noticed was at Select USA, one of the things was I thought there was gonna be an opportunity for everybody to have the same leads and everybody to have anybody that came to the booth, and that wasn't exactly how it was done. It was kind of, if you met with them and you got their card, it was pocketed, and then that's how they went about. So if Round Rock met with somebody, they got the information. If Georgetown met, they got the information. If they set aside their own meetings, they got the information. If somebody showed up to the booth but nobody else was there and you were the only one, it almost was like sucks to you at that point. So I think being there and seeing that for that particular conference, that was very much you want to be there to be able to kind of get the
Yeah, you gotta get
benefit
learning.
of it.
Yeah, you have to be in front of people, and I'm a believer of that. Now, if that's, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If that's what it takes to be on par with Leander and some of these other ones, I'm tired of being the redheaded stepchild, that we're given the scraps. I mean, if we can get to the table and we have the money to do it, I think we need to do that, in my opinion.
Well, and that's what these 2 items reflect, is getting that higher membership with local EDP and then increasing the travel to be able to attend more of the opportunities with local EDP or any other opportunities that are out there.
All those opportunities will still have to come in front of the board to be approved by piece. It's not just a carte blanche, right?
the only one that I would not feel comfortable with doing, once it's in the travel and training budget, it's fine. Anything that is international, I would specifically bring back for approval. Anything United States, it's there, it's in the budget, those usually are a few $1,000s, it should be fine to do. We've laid out some of those. Now, as I get a more firm on what Wilco EDP is doing and what the other conferences are, I can put together a proposed schedule of events and what, yeah, we can do that.
I like that.
Absolutely.
And it just kind of pigtails and, dovetails, not pigtails. Pigtails in my head there. It dovetails into that, picking and choosing kind of what really fits for our area.
Yes, sir.
Is there tax education in here?
Yes, sir, that will come out of, the meeting expenses down in business expenses.
As long as it's in there. Because we were gonna offer that to the city council too.
Yes, and that can come out of training as well, for the TDC sales tax conferences.
And do we have to formally tell the city council that we're willing to have them go to this on us, or?
I think we were gonna wait until the new city council came in
Oh,
to
that's
offer
right.
it to them.
Well, we can go ahead, so, it kind of depends. So the end of the year is when they're closest to us. The ones at the beginning of the year are usually further away that you have to travel to. Absolutely will pay mileage, absolutely will pay a night at a hotel. But the one that usually happens in Austin is in December. So those that aren't possibly gonna be up for reelection, we can offer it to everybody.
Well, is there any problem with, saying, look, we're gonna go and here's the name, and then, oh wow, needed to do a substitution, so we reserved the slot.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go, and then whoever, if the city council is exactly the same way, then great. If it's changed, we just substitute that individual for that position.
Yeah, and if they don't, most of the time you can get a refund back, so it shouldn't be a big deal. So we can just go ahead and
I
reserve.
think
the
it's
seats.
important, for all of us, I need a refresher, but I think it's important for everybody to go through that so that they'll be able to make educated decisions whenever it comes to taxes. That's just my opinion. It would help more we can offer. I know there's people that know what taxes are and do, and how to spend them. They may not need it, but the rest of us need
Okay.
It is.
it. Okay, thank you.
Well, and it's opportunity to ask questions too while you're there from the experts that are presenting it.
Yeah.
Any other questions on miscellaneous expenses? Okay, business expenses. So, we did have 34.5 in marketing, and that was dropped down to 25,000. We did increase that back up to 34.5 as we had anticipated doing more of a marketing, drive this year. And with the new anticipated revenue, so this number was based off of us projecting a $450,000 revenue, and the city is proposing that a revenue of about $484,000. So we can essentially spend more than this if we need to. Right now, that's sitting at about 7%.
Which is perfect.
But, doesn't that 10% include community outreach and sponsorship?
It does.
So we can bump it up a little bit, right?
Yes, and this being still based on the 450 as opposed to the additional 30,000 in expenses.
It's
So
7% of the smaller number, right?
yes, sir. So we would take sponsorships, community outreach, and marketing, putting all those together, and could essentially go up to about $48,000.
Okay.
Then we had meeting expenses. We had in here at $9,000, and that got put down to $1,250. We kept it at the $1,250. What our thought process was for the $9,000 was any of the site visits, any of the meetings that we would have with council, expenses for being able to provide for long meeting nights, and maybe we would need to bring in dinner that night or something. So we will just keep it at the $1,250, and then if we need to, we can amend that at a later time. Let's see, projects. So in the projects line item, we had $200,000. That was $100,000 for CIP projects and $100,000 for incentive slash small business development. That was taken down to zero. But keeping in mind that $100,000 of that was put into a new line item at the very bottom called small business programs. It was said that a council member requested for small business programs to be included into our budget. So we already had that as an item because we had talked about doing small business grants, facade programs and stuff that we would do this year. So what we did was we took that $100,000 down to $50,000. And then the other $50,000 was distributed into rent, the travel training, all the stuff you see in red. We kind of distributed the $50,000 over the other items to still give the board what they were hoping and looking forward to do this year. And then the other thing that was taken out of that $200,000 was $100,000 to CIP projects. So the city took that part out. So anything that we need to do to help the city with CIP projects, that's an easy bring to the board and be able to take out a general fund at that point.
An amendment?
An amendment, yes, sir. So that brings the overall expenses to $484,100, and our proposed revenue is about $485,000. So it's about $900,000 under expenses, under revenue. So giving a pretty
Say that again?
balance.
I'm sorry.
900. You said 900,000, you meant
I meant $900.
Yeah, okay.
$900.
So do that again?
Yes, thank you. So our revenue is about $485,000.
Okay.
Our expenses are $484,100, saving us $900. And so this is not taking into consideration the incentive that has been approved for the project. We're going to take that out of expenses and put that as a liability. And so that's not taking that into consideration. This is just our budget for this year with our projections of revenues that we would expect for sales tax this year.
Okay.
I did have an opportunity to run through this with Danielle very quickly before the board meeting and told her kind of what we were looking at proposing. I didn't get any feedback other than just whatever changes the board makes to let her know so that when she posts it this week, she'll have the correct numbers. So open to questions, thoughts, feedback.
I like the way it is. $900 too good.
So the only real big changes is the small business taking the $50,000 and just redistributing it back into the items that we want, correct?
As far as the proposed budget that we got,
From what the city to what we're asking for.
and then including rent back in there.
Okay.
But yes,
But rent, we have to do that.
yes.
That's a requirement. Okay.
You like it?
Yeah, I think it was perfectly acceptable.
I think we have to really focus, and I like it. I agree. I really think we have to focus on the training. I really think we have to focus on the travel. We've got to get ourselves out in front of these people in order to get them here. I mean, we just can't, if you don't advertise, you're dead. I mean, that's how it works in real estate. If you don't advertise, you're dead. And we have got to get our face out there, period.
We talked about that a little bit a lot of these international companies, they're not just gonna come because
They want to be in Gerald.
You have to develop relationships.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's right. At least you have to be in front of them in order to even start that relationship.
And that's where having a bigger seat at the EDP, Williamson County EDP, will play a factor with their office being over there, you know. Are we the only ones at 10,000? Is everybody there at 20?
I can get a list, there's very few at 10,000, now they're all looking at, but we also know that we're trying to increase our budget to be able to play without the private sector. So, those that are being able to, they're getting up. I know Cedar Park, Leander, Round Rock, Taylor, Georgetown,
Well, listen, Hutto and Liberty Hill.
yeah, I think Liberty Hill, they just got their new EDC director, and he was talking about increasing theirs to the 20, and then Hutto's been trying to, but I'm not sure that, if she'll be able to or not. So just about everybody's up at the 20,000 level.
I think this is fair compromise, to be honest with you. A little bit of increase here, a little bit of decrease there. I think it is.
Well, if there are no changes to what has been proposed, we will need a motion to recommend to the budget to council.
So, I'll entertain a motion to accept the budget as presented.
I make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank y'all. Thank you, Tracy.
And just a quick question, Tanya, on, I guess from the council side, do you see anything that would be red flags or?
It's not callbacks for being tardy, going through and accepting with the proposed changes that we've already saw via email, I think we'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Ready to go 3.2?
Yes, sir.
3.2, discuss consideration of possible action regarding adding $5,000 amendment to the existing scope of work with TXP related to Gerald Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone, the TERS project.
So board, this is just brought back over from the last board meeting that we had tabled. We do need to, so where we currently are with the TERS, regardless of how we move forward with it, this is an additional expense that we have incurred, working with our consultant. So we do need to approve this amendment to be able to pay him out on what he has done for us to date. If there are, he is going to move forward with putting the bylaws together, a finance plan under the current existing TERS, so that he's done with his part of the contract that we've had open for a couple of years. So that way we close him out. Any additional work that we do on the TERS from this finance plan and bylaws, if we change the boundaries in any way and have to redo any of our ordinances and stuff, that would be an additional expense and additional cost. So I just want to make sure that we have what we need to close out what we did for the existing TERS, and then we would have to renegotiate what it would look like moving forward.
How much do we owe them? What percentage do we hold back, or have we held back?
No.
We've been paying him every time there's been an invoice, so we're up to date as far as what he has
Outside of
invoiced,
this 5,000?
aside from
Yeah,
this
this-
5,000, yes. So it'll be a total of $50,000 that the EDC has spent to develop this TERS.
Okay, this is just
Sure.
because I wasn't involved back on that. So he gave us a bid for $45,000,
Yes.
right? So we paid him all $45,000 and he's not done with the project?
So we have not paid him all 45,000.
That's what I was asking, is how much have we held back from the 45,000 so when he's completed?
Maybe when I think held back, that he invoiced and we haven't paid.
Yeah.
So every invoice we have received, we have paid.
Of the 45,000, how much
I-
has we not given?
Don't
Probably
know
paid him
how
all,
much.
See how much has been paid since the project started?
Yeah, there you
I
go.
thought we paid him all of
I
it.
gotta just rephrase how I say stuff.
What?
Well, you're in line with what I was going to ask.
Oh, sorry. I would hope we have some reserve in there that we haven't. It's probably this guy, I'll finish up, but I hate paying out everything.
I don't believe it's all been paid out because of the fact that we have not done the bylaws and the finance plan. So I think the rest of it will be paid out, and that may only be $5,000 or $10,000 left. That I just texted him to see if he'll respond quickly, but $5,000 or $10,000 because he does it and then we get invoiced for it. So this $5,000 is all the additional work that he has done outside of the scope of work that has been questions on the 311, 312, all the calls we've had with that. So this is additional services that was outside of what the original scope of work was.
I don't recall, was it listed as a separate line item in the budget or just under contract?
It was just under contract.
So it's there.
So
So you just need a motion.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just-
I'll make the motion.
I think you can, yes. Thank you, Tom.
Second.
So we have a motion, to accept 3.2 as presented. Any further discussion?
We have to do it because of
Yeah.
what we're doing. So
Yeah.
there's no
We
option.
still need his services.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Moving on to item 3.3, discuss consideration of possible action regarding the Gerald EDC attending the Battery Tech Show, supplier visit trip with Wilco EDP, September 21st through 28th, 2024.
I think we kind of covered that on our earlier discussion, even though we said we'd like to be specific on what we're looking for. I think we just need to get out there.
We can table this, but I don't,
I'm saying earlier in our discussion today, saying that we need to get ourselves out there in front of people and we need to be
this,
active with.
to be clear, this is a trip to Korea.
Right, yes, yeah.
And my question from previous was, do we have the capability of what they need?
Right.
Are they looking for rail?
I have those answers.
Oh,
Awesome,
yeah,
awesome, because if they're looking for rail, I mean, we're wasting our money.
So what I got back, so we had our Wilco EDP board meeting on Friday, and they were going over this trip, and I specifically got called out and asked if I was going. And I said, well, actually, let me ask you some questions. So I asked the room questions. Who had rail? Cedar Park does not have rail. Leander does not have rail. Round Rock does not have rail. Georgetown does not have rail. The only people that have rail are Taylor and Hutto. When I asked about buildings and why those that don't have rail are attending, Georgetown and Cedar Park both brought up companies that are battery like this, that are just in warehouse space. They don't require a lot. It's a little manufacturing and just in a flex building. Both said that they would be happy to talk to anybody that wanted to ask about those companies specifically.
So this is not hazardous waste or hazardous materials that are associated with this?
So some companies do, but it depends. But this whole battery show is not just for car vehicles. It can be batteries in your cell phone, your computer, your other types of batteries.
So it can be an assembly or production line too, as well as some
Correct.
manufacturing.
Yes, and not just for electric vehicles that you think of when you think of battery, EV batteries specifically, but it's a battery show, not specifically EV battery.
From manufacturing to distribution.
Yes.
Two hazardous waste, two rail needed,
Right,
two
right,
and
right.
everything in between.
So then have they provided us these, the people that are doing this, have they provided what they're kind of looking for or what they would need, or is it just come entertain us? I mean, is that?
Well, it's a trade show, so it's
Okay.
all of the battery companies that have the booths, and then people are coming and we would be going and walking the floor,
Do we know who's attending?
So on the link, it does not have who it is, like all the attendees, but once you get registered, then you get the attendee list. So Wilco may have that, but us not as a registered, we don't have.
So I guess my question would be that if we do propose to go forward with this, is I would propose that if we did get the list of people that were in attendance, I think we need to do some background on each one of these companies, which ones are actively going, what are their I don't know if you can do it for all of them, but I think we
It'd be
probably
similar.
need to do some research so that we just don't show up and say, come here. We're prepared to
For sure.
target the ones that we want.
So it's similar to what we do with ICSC, like
Mhm.
going before you start scheduling meetings and stuff, you find out what the requirements are to see if they even fit your community, so you're not wasting your time or their
Okay.
time on who to talk to. So it would be the same thing, kind of figuring out what their needs are, what they're looking for, and then how does that tailor to us specifically, because then we can tailor material to sit there and send to them. So like having one-page sections on the different things that are needed. So yes, absolutely, but.
So you'll be able to present us, if we approve it today, saying that we want you to do this, you'll be able to provide before this meeting, before you leaving, you'll be able to provide us with some type of a game plan of what you're planning to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Who you're gonna contact?
And just to be clear, so this too is not just, and I'm just giving you the pros and cons. Like, I'm not sitting here saying this I have to go to. Just giving the pros and cons on what it is. But they're also following up with 2 other conferences. So this battery show is Wednesday through Friday, but on Monday and Tuesday, and any times needed between Wednesday and Friday as well. If a couple people are meeting with other companies, you'll leave the battery show, you'll go to a meeting or whatever, and then you can go back to the show. But they're following up from Select USA, which was the foreign direct investment one that we went to. And then our Korean consultant just went to one in Korea, to where she also met with 50 companies. And there are several that wanted to follow up on Williamson County, so they're meeting with those 2. So there'll be other meetings set from 2 of the conferences that have been attended. So it's not just for the battery side of it. It's also from Select USA follow-up, as well as the other conference follow-up.
Okay, do you have a recommendation?
I don't. I mean, it's hard because Select USA was a great event. We actually hosted 3 of the companies that were going to Select USA before they actually went. So they came to Williamson County first, and then went to Select USA, so that they could tour the area and see what it was. So I think for the Select USA side, right after the conference, that's more the ability and appeal, and being able to piggyback off of that. I don't know how many other times they're gonna go back over for whatever shows they're gonna go in, because they haven't provided us, those other opportunities yet. So I don't know where the 1 or 2 other, for the next year will be and what they'll be wrapped around. So it's a hard one, because I don't know exactly to be able to say, you know what, I think we need to wait better for this.
How much do you think it costs? What do you think?
And this may have gone up a little slightly, depending on the flight, the flight side of it, but, I mean, they're anywhere from, I know most of them have budgeted between 10 to 13,000 for each of the trips.
My gut tells me we can get more bang for the buck here locally. That's, my gut is telling me that, all right? This is like a very specific and quite a bit of money. I mean, this is almost half the budget if it goes up to 13,000 for the travel, correct? Or a third of it at least.
Yeah, depending
Yeah,
on.
it's a pretty big chunk.
And keeping in mind though, this one is in September, so it is in this current year's budget as opposed to, next
Next year.
fiscal year.
Is there money in this year's budget left to do it?
There is.
Without an amendment?
Mhm.
Does that change anything?
I would still lean against it.
I think it's a good idea. I think you have to get out there in front of these folks. We haven't been a part of it, and maybe it's too late. I don't know. Maybe that's your concern, is you're showing up, halfway through. But Especially maybe the people that we're better suited for, which are not the huge multinational conglomerates, but some of the tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. Maybe that's a better fit for Gerald as it is right now, and kind of the blank slate might be a selling point. Like, we don't have an industrial park, which means you could build a suit.
Right?
I personally think it's a good idea to go as we talked about, getting ourselves out there, getting more involved. You know, we're spending more money with Wilco to get a seat at the table. You know, and again, I really like your idea of maybe getting specific on who we target. If everybody's going over here, maybe we need to make a direction and look at who we think suited for us out of this group that will have access to this time around. So I personally think it last year's budget, money's there. You know, I think it's there. I think it's worth pursuing.
Has Danielle given any feedback on that event, or is she familiar with it, or?
She was not letting me know.
I agree on getting our name and brand there to be resourceful and creative in how we build our city. My concerns is, are we prepared infrastructure to meet the needs that we may be asked to do? That's my greatest fear. Is they may be ready for us, but are we ready for them?
And I think that comes with the targeting of the companies that are there. You know, maybe we need to go for something that's more on the distribution instead of manufacturing, smaller companies. You know, the third-party people instead of the big ones, because of what we have to offer or don't have to offer.
Yeah, we're not ready for 1 million square feet.
Yeah, we don't need to have
We're definitely
Samsung
ready
coming
for
in.
10, or 20.
Yeah. I think that
20,000 square feet would be fine.
I think we can make it beneficial, as beneficial as we do.
Is that the type of, are these going to be, are the secondary tier of suppliers going to be out there and manufacturers? Or is this more of?
That's my understanding, yes, which is why Cedar Park and then we're going, because that's
Okay.
all I mean, Round Rock doesn't have much space left, they don't have any land left, it's just buildings and smaller buildings.
Such a.
Density, that's the word.
Yep, well, we've got wide open spaces.
We can build you whatever.
Totally up to the board.
Second vote.
I make a motion to approve item 3.3
And I'll second
With a
it.
budget of,
with a budget not to exceed $13,000 for October board review.
can you second it, right?
I'll second that, yes, with the 13,000.
So we have a motion to accept this trip with a cap budget of 13,500. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Nay.
opposed say nay.
Nay.
I think I'm going to abstain. Instead of having a time, unless you're going to be a tiebreaker. So,
2 for, 1 negative, 1 abstain.
it's gonna pass.
2 on.
There have to be reasons on abstination.
I don't think so. Yellow's battery plank.
Conflict of interest.
Now, will you have, you said as soon as you register, you'll have access to see the spectrum of companies that will be there?
Yes, I will get that.
Thank y'all. Moving on to item 3.4, discuss, consider possible action regarding the support of the executive director of the JEDC being the chair and immediate past chair of the Gerald Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors for the term of January the 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026.
Board, I've been asked by the Gerald Chamber of Commerce to put this item on our board agenda, to see whether the EDC board approves of my current positions, on the Gerald Chamber Board. They just want to ensure that they're setting themselves up, for opportunities and not, that I won't be revoked from those. So they want to either remove me now or, and put somebody in who can take this position, or be under the understanding that it would be supportive for me to keep the positions. So currently, as it sits, I'm chair-elect. I would be taking over the chair position in January, and that is for a calendar year. And then the next calendar year would be just immediate past chair, just to provide input as needed for the next chair, which should be very minimal at that point because you have the chair-elect who ultimately is handling and being there through those things anyway. So it's completely up to the board. I think that, I mean, I would like to keep my position, but I understand if there are any concerns about me doing that. So I just need to get kind of recommendation from the board on what they'll accept, what you will accept versus what you won't, so that I can let them know so that they can choose the best path forward for them.
Was becoming the chair-elect, did that go in front of the board or?
It did not.
I just want to make sure that we're going to support her being there and doing the duties that are necessary. She did step back from some of the other things on the chamber, correct?
Yes, so I was chairing the ambassador committee, which for us fell under business retention expansion. It went hand in hand, which is why I thought that would be a good fit. But since we were backing off on business retention, then stepped down from that, and we've met and had somebody else working on somebody else to take that position.
Because you've been directed by the board to go after new business.
Correct. Yes, sir.
I'm a strong advocate for the Chamber of Commerce. Very, very dear to me, and as you know. It's not uncommon for an EDC to work directly with a Chamber of Commerce. It's actually very common practice. My question to you is, that's a big role. How does that role impact what you do for EDC? I'm more concerned about you. Are you able to balance both of those tasks?
I think with somebody else handling the ambassador side, it will be a lot easier. I think I put a lot of focus on the ambassadors and the BRE because that side is my passion too. Helping small businesses is my passion. So it was easy to dive into that side. I think from an overarching perspective, it's not going to take as much time as that committee itself did. We've got a lot of things that have been put into place this year, and quite frankly, it's going to be a hit or miss. Either the chamber's going to succeed this year or it's not. And so if we don't have some opportunities to take it on, then we may not even see our chamber exist past this year. So if it's something that I feel like the EDC can do, because we've talked about partnering with the chamber in an office setting. So if it's something that we can do to provide a little bit of support in that role to help them move it forward to succeed.
What's the staff currently? Is it 1, 2? How many?
Well, it's one, but it's not really been out in the public, so welcome public. It's scaling back. So Sherry is now going from a full-time position to a part-time position, and we are closing the chamber doors, and so they will not have an office space, and that has to do with budgeting purposes for what the budget items for the chamber look like. So I think that will it take a little bit of time? Yes, but I don't see that it's going to take my time from what I'm doing on the EDC. We have one board meeting a month. We have the monthly luncheons. And if it's anything like I've been doing now, it's a few phone calls here or there out of the week. Sherry asking some information and some things from the chair and chair-elect. So I don't see it being much more than that.
So staff prepares like all meetings and.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, it'd be essentially, I've taken a lot of your time lately, but it'd be essentially your position, and Sherry handling all the day-to-day operations and stuff, and just kind of piggybacking off of, hey, you know, we're looking at doing this, or I think we should do this. And the budget will already be prepared before next year hits, and so, I mean, completely up to the board. I just want to, I understand their position too, in wanting that support or not, and not be told at the last minute, so this way they can prepare as well.
Sounds like this is a year that they need as much support as they can get.
And actually that's, and I'm like Tanya, I'm very, very close to the chamber. I really, you know, I think it's a valuable resource for the community. My concern is that if they're in that dire of a strait, how much time is it gonna take of your time to help make them survive?
Well, if everything pans out, we're setting that up now before the end of the year. And so that next year when it comes, we've outlined, the current chair has outlined what next year looks like, which is what they've kind of been setting up.
So did it go part-time by way of the staff member? Because I know that you're telling me the staff is decreasing.
Well, we have one staff person, and, well, I take that back. Okay, so we have Sherry, and then there is another part-time staff person that comes in and is working on some stuff. So there's 2 staff, Sherry full-time, the other one part-time. Now there's gonna be 2 part-time staff people.
Okay. Then I want it to be successful.
We all do, we're just.
I just don't want it on your back.
We're doing.
That's what I'm worried about.
We're setting up a meeting too with the chamber, EDC, and library to figure out how all 3 of us can partner and stop doing events and things, because EDC was doing things, the city's doing things, the library's doing things, the chamber's doing things, and we're not collaborating on what that looks like together and piggybacking off of events that could potentially, like the nonprofit side, what can be done to help with those events where the library's not doing a wine big event, the chamber's doing a gala big event, and the sponsors are coming from the same people, and so it's not really benefiting anybody. So if the chamber adds another event, we're taking away from sponsorships for the library or potentially ourselves for the gala. So it's trying to balance all of that out, but that's being discussed right now to have in the budget for next year, which is not on my shoulders exactly. So I get your concern, trust me, I get it.
Tracy, I just want you to be extreme. I want the EDC, my first priority is to make sure that the EDC is successful. I mean, that's where, I really want to make sure that we are engaged, that we're going out, hustling for those new businesses and everything else. And although I like the chamber, I'm fearful that a lot of the time is going to be your time is going to be drug off to help them. And they've been floundering for multiple years, okay? And I'm concerned for you, okay? And although I'd like to see the chamber survive, I think the EDC is more important myself. And I'd rather have more of a concentration on the EDC. That's just my opinion.
So with in Tom, you're correct. I have followed Greg to serving in that role where I actually became staff in another city. And it is very overwhelming. But I was determined, and you have a determined heart and mind, and I can see you would do your best to place the focus on that success under your leadership, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
But my only concern is how viable is that plan to their sustainability, and I really want them to be successful. But it does open the doors to pull you down, even though it's hard to see it. I didn't see it coming either. I will tell you.
They suck you back in.
I opened the doors for 6 months at the end of Chamber of Commerce. There was no staff and I was board president at the time. And it was because I couldn't let the membership down. They're very successful today, but what it took from me during that time was unbelievable. I wasn't one to mouth as I was one to theirs. And then I finally wised up within our rotation with the board saying, we're going to take a day here, a day there, but it becomes,
Rolling.
and it can, but it sounds like too, they're going to more of a remote focus where they don't have that office setting.
But it's still every month, there's 2 meetings, one for the board and then one for the actual public meeting, right? So you get together for that, so there's a couple hours each one of those, preparing for those. And then motivating the individuals that are on the board that maybe don't have the experience that is needed to make that. And I know your personality, I just know your personality, and you're gonna try to take it all on, and I just feel it's gonna drag you down, I really do. And it's just my
You
opinion.
guys have an opinion?
I have faith in Tracy, that she can handle what she takes on, and that she knows what she can handle and can't. We work with the Chamber of Commerce hand in hand pretty much with a lot that we do here. We're small, I don't think it would be too much to continue in that capacity. You're only kind of switching one for the other. You've been in the position of doing what you were doing with them previously. I have no problem with it.
And the board's currently full.
Yes. Well, it's missing one, but they just added, they're gonna add the board, member from Serena Farms. But it's a board of, we currently have 7 members and we currently have 8 members and it's a 9-member board.
What's the, what is, sorry,
Membership.
yeah, what is the membership, what direction is the membership been going? Well, I know, I'm guessing that it's been going down, but what are we currently at now?
We have around 90 members. There was an increase in membership dues, which really shocked a lot of people because it was a pretty significant increase. And so I think in that regard and what you get, your bang for your buck on what the membership level is, hasn't quite been there. And so they've been losing a lot of members. But Sherry has been very good in going and finding out why we're losing membership, bringing it back and saying we need to look at adding other membership levels or decreasing our membership levels, which is something they're working on because of the feedback that she's been provided. I think whenever those had increased, it was somebody that didn't know this area and they were just a contractor person that came in and said, this is what every other chamber has done, rather than actually kind of figuring out Gerald itself. So Sherry's been here for a year now and has been able to evaluate those things and really provide some feedback and information. And although her I will say this, we are keeping her on a salary. She's considered part-time, but she's not. I mean, she's got a caring, loving heart too. She's not gonna quit. She's very determined to make this chamber work, so I think she will still put in the same amount of hours, if not more, to try to make everything work and get up to speed, because she doesn't want it to fall on her watch either. So I think that with her dedication to, and if they can start getting things like the library and chamber working together to be able to help join in on events, to be able to fundraise better, smarter, not harder, between the 2 of them, that may be able to help some as well. There are going to be other smaller events, and there'll be a kickball tournament coming up that aren't costing the chamber a lot of money, but could potentially see some revenue from it. So we shall see. But I mean, I see both sides, so that's why I will do whatever the board wants. I just know that they have to figure out whether they get the support or not. But I see your side, your side.
And I appreciate everything you've done and potentially continue to do. You've been a value asset to them. So, genuinely thank you as a member.
Oh yeah.
If you feel you can do it, then yeah, my vote. Okay. If you feel that you can do it, I know your personality, and I just, if you need an out,
Take it.
take it, okay? Yeah, that's, I guess that's the way I'm looking at it, is if you feel you can do it, have at it, but the expectation for the CDC, as far as my part, is I'm gonna be very aggressive in wanting things to happen on our EDC to move forward.
Well, because y'all, I mean, I know what y'all said, but hearing it, it sounds a lot like, now I'm scared out
Now I'm
of my mind.
I was just saying, you know, and I don't know the plan, but has the board thought, if you go from the current 2 part-time staff that you have right now to no staff in the next 90 days after you go to that role, what is the solution? And how long will it take to reach that solution?
And Sherry's not going to leave unless she's booted completely out. She is dedicated to making it work. But we've been in that situation for the board before I was even chair-elect. When I first came on, we had no staff, and it was draining to where we all said, either hire somebody or this closes now because we can't do this. And I think that would be the same sentiment, because everybody they're paying day-to-day jobs, and they cannot put that as their full-time job. So I think that if it came down to that position again, it would just close. There's nothing more that could be done, because we can't as a board, be the staff, be the day-to-day. So as long as I can be a supportive role, I think I can do it, but, so here, if the board would support, then I would say motion to support, and let me sleep on it, and then I will let you know whether I take it or not. And then that way the board has support or not support, and then I can really sit and think about it tonight based on like things that y'all have expressed.
And
And
can you still be on the board, but not in that position?
yes,
Okay, so you're there to support your everything else, it's just in that role, it's a lot. It's a lot, so that's all, but, okay.
Well, I heard the recommendation. Right?
Yep.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept 3.4 as presented.
Second.
I need a motion.
Oh, you need a motion? I make a motion to accept item 3.4 and leave it up to the director's discretion on how she wants to move forward.
We have a motion, we need a second.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Item 3.5, discuss consideration of possible action regarding moving funds from maturing CD at Eagle Bank to a 7-month term CD and adding additional funds from the Gerald EDC General Fund account.
so I have on your current cover sheet, we currently have 3 CDs. One of them is maturing on August 6th. And so we have talked about other opportunities and a potential investment policy to look at, to be able to look at different opportunities like a TML investment risk pool, as well as what other things that we could invest in. Right now, because of how quickly this one is coming up, the bank has suggested rolling it into a 7-month CD at a 4.88% interest rate. So obviously the higher interest rate, it should be considered being able to look at that. The other options are just rolling over that account, which it currently sits at $30,223.35. Rolling that into the 7-month CD, closing the CD and putting it just into our general fund, which is not earning interest. Or we can roll that money over as well as take additional funds from our general fund to add into it to also accumulate more interest on our funds. We currently have about $1.3 million sitting in the bank, minus the $500 that we did for Labatt, so about $750,000 So after talking with our treasurer, we thought maybe $250,000 of our general fund to be put in there to be able to accrue that interest.
What is our general fund, what's the interest rate on our general fund right now? Nothing. Does Eagle Bank have any type of a money market account that can be rolled in and out of?
So we have to do an investment policy to do anything like that. And that was kind of the idea with this CD, since it's maturing soon, to roll some money into it. I looked at like the street fund, and the way they're distributed is 40% cash and about 20% each across 3 separate CDs. So that's kind of where we came up with that number, was kind of mirroring the street fund.
Okay.
And then kind of like what Tracy was talking about, if we adopt an investment policy, we can look into different things. So there's like TML, but I think there's probably some questions on money market, whether the government funds can be in there. But there's definitely other investment vehicles. This is just kind of.
Do this while we look into the other.
Right, yeah.
Over the next
Have we-
7 months.
Have we done have we looked at other banks to see what our bank, what some of the other banks are getting for CDs, the comparable CDs?
I have not, I don't know.
We did not yet because of how quickly this one turned around. We wouldn't have been able to put an RFP out to be able to get that back
Okay.
as quick. But because this one is coming up so quickly, this was the best opportunity to just roll it over. Because the next one doesn't roll over until November. So between now and the next board meeting, was this, we're in August, September, so we have essentially 2 months that we can get an investment policy together, put that out to see what other are offering, as well as I think through the TML, the questions were, because you're essentially putting that one into an entire risk pool where everybody's in, so it's under the assumption that the interest rates may be higher, but it's more liquid than some of the CDs where you're taking, you can take out money but at an expense, and they don't. Having somebody from TML come and talk to you all about that risk pool, and that way you have the knowledge of that coming from a representative. Get the investment policy in place, because Edward's right, we can't do anything outside of the CD because this is what we already have invested in. We don't have an investment policy to be able to go into anything else. So we've got to get all those things put in place, which we do have a preliminary investment policy right now that our attorney had given us. So we've got something we're looking at and working off of.
So can it, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, to your point, I mean, I think something like a money market should be something included. So you have the liquidity, but you're also getting some interest, you can spread across CDs. I think I put together something with like some T-bills in it too, just kind of spread out, nothing in equities or anything like that, but.
So the short term is, we just have to say, we're gonna move to the CD for this time. But what is it gonna take to put that policy in place and bring it to do we bring it to the board and then have a vote on it and then we take it over? Does the city have to approve that, or is it just us?
They should not.
Okay.
So I guess the question, assuming people are kind of on board with rolling this account 32 CD, do we want to add additional money? I mean, my suggestion would be yes, because we're accruing no interest in our checking account.
Yeah,
What's your recommendation?
I would agree.
My recommendation would be approximately 20% of the general fund, so somewhere around 200,000. I would say 200,000 in addition to the 30 that's there. And then hopefully we can have an investment policy put together before the maturity of this account 465. So we can maybe make a different decision. Maybe we say, hey, we'll take the money out of that CD and put it in the money market or put it in the TML or something.
Let me ask you a question. So if we were to use money from the capital account, how long of a process would it take to get that money out of a capital account towards a project? At least take 6 months, wouldn't it? Probably, to go through the whole process, to find out what they wanted, right?
Yeah, that was.
So I guess
With the 7 month, yeah.
Yeah, so same amount of time, so my thinking is instead of the 20%, take it up to, 80%. And I mean, it's a very short period of window.
money in there too.
Yeah, it's a very short window, maximize that as much as we can.
Interest 4.8.
4.8.
We don't have to give that money over to them for
A year.
a year, so let's get it all in there, get it as much as we can, and let's start making money.
We need a number.
I agree. I mean, I could see whatever our budgeted expenses are plus some cushion,
Yeah.
and then the remainder to go into a CD.
Well, if you did $750,000, you'd have enough to cover your budget.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's 7 months,
Yeah, it's nothing.
it's
It's a blink of the eye. It's almost not.
It's almost, almost big.
Almost big. I'd make that motion. Take 750,000 of our funds and put it into a 7-month CD.
Okay,
Second.
okay, so,
Wait on.
In addition,
wait a minute.
in addition to the 30,000 that's already in there.
Okay, so if we're saying we've got
0.3.
yes, and then, let's say our whole year expenses are 500,000.
I see no reason not to.
Yeah, and then we can.
Short term.
Yeah, it's sure. It's time to
I
take a
mean, if
look.
we needed
Yeah,
it, you just
right.
needed it.
Why let it sit?
Yeah.
But, I
That's
mean,
what I saw.
Zero 1%
Right now.
Yeah. Just no. There's no reason.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for $750,000 from the general fund include, and then also the CD that's maturing with $30,223.35 to move all of that into a CD, 7-month CD of 4.88 gigabytes. One thing we do need to get, and we may need, I don't know, we may need to have it in place first, but I know that FDIC is only insured for up to $250,000. We have, on another board I'm on, we have an agreement with the bank that they will back whatever money we have in there. They back with securities. And so I don't know if we have to have that in place before we put an amount that large enough. I mean, it's in the bank anyway, so insurance stuff.
I would ask.
But we may need to, and Tommy will know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember looking at that.
And that number that you're talking about is for the whole entity. So if you had a checking, a savings, a CD, the total amount is it's not per account, it's per name.
Yeah.
So it's 250,000 period.
Or number, yeah. So, okay, sorry about that. So we have a motion on the floor for $750,000 from the general fund plus $30,223 and 35 cents to go into a 7-month CD, interest rate of 4.88 at Eagle Bank. Any further discussion?
Another question though, if they cannot do anything above the 250,
They should be able to do 3 CDs if they can only do that, though. They should be able to do 3
Yeah,
CDs.
break it down.
Yeah, break it up.
However it lays out.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 who seconded that motion?
I did.
Who made the motion?
Aye.
I was thinking the same thing, I saw you who made that motion.
Make a motion. Yeah, second.
Further agenda items. Future agenda items.
It would be the investment
Investment policy.
policy.
But that may need to be in the investment policy where the bank guarantees the funds that we have in their
That's
banks.
a great idea.
So, but let's work it from the other side, talk to Tommy, because he's gonna know exactly what you're talking about.
So I got a question on that. If the bank's guaranteeing it, but the bank's the one that fails,
No, so they have to have, I don't know that it's liquid, but they have to be able to secure that amount of money,
Or some type of surety.
okay?
Yeah.
Because of my other board, it's several million,
Mm-hmm.
and so, they are supporting that amount, so.
And I will say, like with SVB, when that failed, the government stepped in and backed everything up.
Yeah, so,
So in general, FDIC doesn't happen unless.
worst case scenario.
Yeah, we don't want to go through that again, okay? No more of that.
Future agenda items other than, investment policy.
I think we need
I mean, we have our running list, but,
that targeted list for the
September.
Meeting with the.
Your action plan, right, the action plan.
and your decision on it.
Okay.
TBD.
and then, just keeping in mind anything to do with thinking about the tourist discussion and what that scope of services would look like and how much more the EDC, I know some of y'all have asked about, does the EDC continue to pay for that, or how does that look going forward? So we ultimately need to have discussion
If it's dissolved and another one is created,
on reboundaries, any of it, would all be a different scope of services.
We're hoping that we don't dissolve it.
yeah,
Don't
well,
we
Well,
have
we
the
just expand
conversation?
that's a lot of money just to.
Yeah, just to throw it away. Even if we shrunk it down to an area that, and had the second one, the bigger one, whatever, but just to throw it away, it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 2:45.
Thank you all.
You have that motion?
Thank you. Thank y'all
Oh,
for
yes.
joining us today.
Ashley, I already sent it over to her. We didn't talk about this tonight, but she was.
Good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Michelle will be.
Good to see you.
What's that? Oh, I didn't even look at the date, what's the date? I don't know. I'm getting my knee replaced at the end of August.
Oh,
So you're going skiing right now?
Yeah.